Hello everyone, welcome to another week in our garden. Now this week is a short update on the condition of the garden after that flash flood. Now the first thing I want to do is thank all those people that left us messages and kind words of support. Really did appreciate it. I was unable to answer everyone. I sent most of you a love heart, but do believe me, I read everyone, and it was very encouraging and gave me a lot of support to get down here and get the garden cleaned up for you to see. The other thing we did, my son-in-law is an agronomist, and so we asked him to come down and have a look at the condition of the plants, etc., and give us a little bit of advice. Came and had a good look at all the plants, and he said it's not too bad because it was only underwater for about 20 hours, so we might get away with it. Potatoes should be all right. They're standing on their own. If they'd have fallen over and stayed over, then he'd have been a little bit worried, but he said it was a good job. I put the sticks in to support them and bridged up again straight away. That's more or less saved the crop. Now, as you can see, it's all standing up on its own, which is a good thing. And it's a little bit dirty, but we had a little bit of rain last night, so it's washed some of it off. I will have to ridge them up again, but it's just too wet at the moment. I'm trying to let it dry out, but I don't want it to dry out too much because it will set solid and then I'll never get them ridged up. So it's a case of waiting till the soil's just right and then get on with it. Now we got this flash flood, and then we've had a few inquiries of why we're getting it. The gentleman who lives next door has been here 18 years and never seen anything like it. So we had a few inquiries, and it was actually a culvert that runs under the road below us. They'd done some repairs to, and they took out the big pipes and put small pipes in, and that created the backup of the water. It was all right once the flood had found a new way round. It actually followed the road down and went over the railway in the end, and that's what lowered it so quickly. But let's hope they now put the old pipes back in on the culvert so we don't get that happening again. Once it went over the railway, it actually went down to the village, and sadly it went into some people's houses. Now we're only flooding a garden, but it must be devastated to have that flood into your house. My heart goes out to those people. Now we'll have a little walk up the garden and show you what we've been doing to bring it back to something like normal. We're at the first tunnel, well, the bottom tunnel, and it has the calabrese in. Now I got Mark to have a look at this, and he thinks with the heads being tight and developing that the water shouldn't have gone into the heads. So it's a case of waiting and seeing whether the heads will rot or whether they'll grow through it. As you can see, they're just developing and they're quite tight, so we'll just hope that the water has been shed off them. Did actually hose pipe everything down after the flood and got a lot of the mud off these. These were totally brown. Now he has advised me to give them, especially the cabbages, a dose of nitrogen. Now the only nitrogen I use is dried blood. It's very quick acting, so what I'm doing, I'm going to sprinkle some of that round them, hoe it in when they get a little bit drier. Obviously it's far too wet at the moment to even get near them. I shall sprinkle some round and hoe it in. I won't water it in now, I think they've had enough watering, and hopefully that will bring the calabrese back up again. It's certainly a good colour, but I'll show you in a minute the cabbages that look quite washed out. These two are my prize cabbages, not quite ready yet for lifting. I'm just hoping they're going to be okay. They really are quite big. but we'll lift those later. We'll just let them get over the flood. These are the greyhound cabbages. If you can see, they are a little bit washed out and a bit pale, so they really do need some of that dried blood on to bring them back a bit. I'm a bit muddy now. We're good at mud at this year. Now we're at the Romanesco tunnel. It's actually got cauliflowers at the back and Romanesco at the front. Now we were hoping to really put some nice Romanesco up for you to see. Now the Romanesco hasn't fared very well at all, so I got Mark to have a look and he said it's all running to seed. It's what we call blown now. As you can see, it's the head should be forming at the bottom like a cauliflower, not at the top of a stick. So unfortunately this will have to be taken out. I'll show you in a minute what they should look like in the cauliflowers at the back. I think the warm weather has affected them. We were cold and then we was warm and then we was cold, and then the flood has done more damage than anything to them. So these will come out, and what I shall do, I shall reset beginning of August, and then we'll try and grow them, so we're putting them out at the end of August, so we're growing them in the cooler part of the year. I think this was a little bit too warm for them as well. I'll just show you the cauliflowers and what they should look like. These are the cauliflowers at the back of that tunnel. Now the Romanesco should look like this, with the hearts forming in the bottom. They're doing brilliant. They've got away through the floods and they really are doing well. So we will have some cauliflowers, I think. The same again, Mark says just give it some of my dried blood and hoe it in, and then when the rains do come, let that wash it in rather than watering them anymore. So they'll be fine. We have taken quite a bit of lettuce out, but we left some just to show you what sort of state it's in. Obviously you couldn't eat this sort of thing, so I'll lift one and show you. There it is, look. This is what's flooded in. It's a mess. I'll just cut it in half and we'll have a look inside. I don't know if you can see that, but it's absolutely full of filth, full of muck. It started to rot in the heart as well, and the back's all rotten as well. So with this like this, that wouldn't last long anyway. And as you can see, it's absolutely full of mud and muck out the fields. So that's why the lettuce is had to go. Now I have some more lettuce that was coming through anyway, so now there'll be maybe 2-3 week gap before the next lettuce is ready. Maybe a little bit less, depends on the weather. Now this is the tunnel that has the sprouts in and the kohlrabi, and I've actually set some more lettuce in there this week, so there's 1 or 2 lettuce in the spaces as well. These are totally unaffected and they're looking good. Put the yellow sticky tags inside the tunnel, and all I've done is caught flies on it at the moment, so I can't see anything else in there. Where the overwintering onions were, and I've lifted them because they're full of rust anyway, and I've hung them up to dry in the shed on the rack, and I've actually put in at the far end the celery and at this end celeriac. I had to replenish and dig the whole plot, obviously, because the flood left it filthy. Now I've put this temporary cover on just while they get established, to keep some of the insects off, and also just to give them a little bit of protection from the north wind we've been having. They're settling in quite well, and then later we'll take the tunnel off. I haven't bothered stringing it or anything. It's just there to just give them a good start. Now the dwarf broad beans, perfectly all right, coming along nicely. They're showing beans now. We're picking them soon. They've done well. A little bit of black fly on them, so I need to take the tops off. The beetroot at the bottom has done remarkably well. We're thinning it down soon. We'll take the baby ones out to thin them. Along here was 2 rows of early peas. They were totally washed out and smashed up, so they had to come out. And I've just scattered some swede seed on it, so we might just get a crop of swede out of that gap. The beans and the peas have taken the flood well. Mind you, I did wash them well, and they seem to have taken. And what I've actually done is I've put a few lettuce down this week, so we'll have those as a catch crop between the two. The onion crop has taken a knock, but Mark says they'll be all right, they'll recover. If anything, they might run to seed a bit early with being messed about, but they should be all right. Just here I've put a row of the sweet peppers that we had left over. We had loads of sweet peppers, thanks a lot Stu, so I've put them out in the garden, a nice sunny spot when it does get sunny. This is plot A. This has got all the pumpkins and the squashes in it. Now they seem to have liked the flood. They've really recovered, and to say that they was totally brown after they've been underwater, they've washed off and they're really picking up. They're enjoying the little bit of wet, I think. These salads at the bottom, Mark says they should be all right because they're still, the part that we need is still to grow. If you see, these haven't started hearting up yet, so he said they'll be fine. Might need a little bit of washing around the bottom, but keep his eye on them. Start to look a bit off or start to rot, then we'll just take them out. But they're looking well. They're getting more growth on them this week than what we had before. Radish he had a look at and he says yes, they'll be fine. They just want a good wash when we do take them out. The raspberries seem to be okay. They've taken it well. They're actually ready for the tying up, which we'll do next week. We'll tie into the second wire. This is as far as the flood came, so these just got a good watering, if you like. The crowns were just under the water, and there's a little bit worried in case the crowns rotted. But they seem okay. They look a little bit washed out, but I think they'll be fine. So what I should do, with them being looking a bit washed out, I shall give them a good dose of Epsom salt, see if I can bring them round a little bit. But they are cropping, and there's some at the far end are actually turning red now. So now you've seen how we're recovering from the flash flood. We don't want that happening here, and we don't want that happening to anybody else. It's awful. Again, I'd like to thank those people that contacted us with their comments, etc. We do appreciate that. That was nice of you. So that will be about it for this week. Thank you for watching. Many thanks for subscribing. We do appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye now.